Hello, hello, hello. It's Wednesday, September 17th. Hey, friends. Joining me later in the show, Reed Galen from the home front. We'll be talking about the latest with Tyler Robinson, the Charlie Kirk shooting suspect, what to make of all of this. It's Wednesday, September 17th. In the year of our Lord 2025, I'm Tom LoBianco. Ian Walters, not with us today. He is on a music sabbatical, giving a lecture on the history of jazz, R&B, blues up in my native town, Baltimore. So we will not be getting to viewer questions and comments today. But if you do have some comments, just go ahead and reply to the email, 24-Site News. You can reply there. I'll see those. You can also drop a note over on Political Voices Network on YouTube at 8 p.m. when this airs. You can drop a note in the comments. I take a look at those. I do live in the comments, believe it or not. First up, our top news today. Utah prosecutors said yesterday they will be seeking the death penalty for Tyler Robinson after submitting evidence, which including a damning text message from Robinson to his roommate and apparent romantic partner, saying that he had had enough of Charlie Kirk's hate. Here's what we have from CNN, my old stomping grounds. They charged Tyler Robinson with aggravated murder on Tuesday and announced they would seek the death penalty. Kirk's assassination 6 days ago at an event at Utah Valley University sent shockwaves across the country. Prosecutors charged Robinson through an information document rather than an indictment. An information document allows prosecutors to charge someone directly and requires a probable cause hearing, in which a judge determines if there is sufficient evidence to proceed. The charging document for the 22-year-old suspect outlines evidence collected by investigators, including DNA on the suspected murder weapon and a texted confession. More on that as we move to the show here in a bit. Also today, former Trump CDC director Susan Menares is testifying up at the Capitol before the U.S. Senate after she was fired by Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., which she says is a political firing for not agreeing to go with anti-vaccination recommendations from RFK Jr.'s, Kennedy Jr.'s new vaccine advisory panel. For that, let's take a look at NBC News real quick and get some updates here. Senator Roger Marshall said, Menares, replying to Senator Roger Marshall on the panel, says what the CDC does is provide evidence associated with recommendations so a parent or physician can make the best determination for them. This is in response to Senator Marshall, Republican of Kansas, alleging that CDC itself is responsible for vaccine misinformation. Menares, in her testimony, says that she believes that the directives from the advisory panel were in violation of her oath of office, and that's why she refused to go along with them. This is ongoing up at the Capitol. Meanwhile, overseas, President Donald Trump on his second state visit to Britain. From the BBC, Trump given spectacular royal welcome in Windsor by the King and Queen of England. U.S. President has received a lavish ceremonial welcome from King Charles and senior royals in Windsor on the first full day of his state visit to the UK, the BBC reports. The president and First Lady Melania Trump stepped out of ornate carriages inside the castle's scenic quadrangle before an inspection of troops on perfectly prepared lawns. Queen Camilla and the Prince and Princess of Wales were also there to welcome the U.S. visitors as a band played Stars and Stripes. There seemed to be some friendly moments between the king and President Trump as they watched the parade. There was an exchange of gifts, including a leather volume commemorating the 250th anniversary of our nation, the Declaration of Independence. Of course, more on that as we roll into the 4th of July, 2026, 250 years since our founding. Melania Trump was given an Anya Hindmark handbag and a silver bowl made by Northern Irish artist Cara Murphy. Okay, today on the show, what to make of what we know and what to make of what we don't know yet. There's a lot that we're still learning about Tyler Robinson. And if you got today's newsletter, do check it out. It's from 24 Site News. If you don't, head on over to 24site.news. You can find it there. A very good write-up earlier this morning from the Bulwark. Certainly no fans of Trump, Vance, or the MAGA movement, but also very clear in reality about the submitted evidence here, which is Tyler Robinson, according to evidence presented in court, texted his roommate and said the reason that he shot Charlie Kirk was because he was tired of the hate against transgender people, including apparently his roommate who's transitioning from a man to a woman, and that he had to do something about it. He, quote, had enough of the hate. And as Jim Swift and Andrew Eggers and Kathy Young over at the Bulwark note, you have to deal with reality. And this is the reality of it. Now, there are plenty of bad actors in this, obviously, not least of which is the president himself, who has been claiming some kind of vast left-wing conspiracy. It reminds me of how Hillary Clinton decades ago talked about the vast right-wing conspiracy against her and her husband, President Bill Clinton. But you still have to acknowledge reality. And for those of us who are rooted in reality, I think it's very important to note this, okay? Something that's very interesting to note, here we go. Here's Reed. Let's bring Reed in right now. We're ready. Reed, what's up?
Hi. Hey, how are you?
How goes it?
It goes, man. It goes.
So, before we get to reality, before we get to what's actually going on, do you have a favorite conspiracy theory these days? I have a few.
Oh gosh, I don't know. I don't think you need them. I don't think you really need them. They're all so insane. Yeah, I don't think you need to call it a conspiracy. I think oftentimes you just need to call it incompetence. That'll do. You know, just the thing about conspiracies, somebody once said, is like, think about how many otherwise normal or even not intelligent people have to keep secrets for a real conspiracy to work, right? It's just not, you know, who knows?
Completely unfunctional.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah. So I don't know. I don't think you need them anymore. I think the whole thing is like a fever dream. It's like we're all on a, years long ayahuasca trip with Aaron Rodgers. So.
Oh, wow. Oh, that sounds like a shitty trip. That's a good way to wreck a trip.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is.
Who's nuttier? Is it Rodgers or Favre? I can't remember.
I'd say Rodgers is more naturally nuts. Because he's always been that way. He's always been weird. Favre, I think it was, I think, whiskey and painkillers will do that to you.
A steady diet of numbing your terrible reality.
Jack Daniels and oxycodone. That will wreck anybody.
Folks watching us here live on Substack, or if you're catching us here on the replay at Political Voices Network at 8 p.m. Of course, I'm sure you probably already know Reed Galen, author of The Homefront on Substack, host of The Homefront wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And of course, longtime former Republican operative, co-founder of the Lincoln Project, now president of jointheunion.us, traveling the country. Still, the campaign never ended, man.
It never should end.
Yeah.
I mean, not now. Look, it should. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
If we did this the right way, we'd do it like, the UK and Australia do. It'd be like a 6-week campaign, and that would be the window. You couldn't spend money. You couldn't do this other stuff. And everybody would just have to focus for a month and a half and figure it out. But we don't live in that world. We don't live in that country.
Not at all.
And yeah, you got to get out and talk to people where they live, because although we have more ways to reach people than we've ever had, they're all more inefficient than they've ever been.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's terrible. Things are junked up. We, ironically, more technically more connected than ever by these cell phones, but even more distant and gunked up by this crap that's out there these days. Mm-hmm. You were down in Florida with David Jolly. He's running for governor, right? Is that correct?
He is. Yeah, David's running for governor. And so I got to spend a couple of days with he and his wife, Laura. They're fabulous people. I've known David for a while. We did a podcast together, which you can listen to over at the home front on Apple, Spotify, all your different things. He was a Republican member of Congress years ago, became an independent. We actually both served in senior roles at different times for an organization called the Serve America Movement, which is a third political party. And so, yeah, now he launched his campaign, I believe, back in June. So, was able to spend an evening, lovely dinner with he and his wife. And then we went out to a University of Florida tailgate to talk to some young Democrats, which was great. I'd never been to I went to Texas, so I'm used to tailgates, but deep South SEC tailgates are a whole different ballgame.
Really?
Yes. Well, first of all, it's about 9,000 degrees. And as you can tell, I don't have anything to catch the sweat. And where I live, I live at 7,500 feet and about 12% humidity. So for me, anything lowland is bad. But, it was interesting talking, these are very smart kids, and, listening to a lot of them, Tom, somebody once told me, like, you're a reporter. Ask people questions. Everybody loves to talk about themselves. And so, we've been doing this so long, and talking to some of the kids, one guy, I said, well, what do you think about, how are you guys feeling about jobs? And he said, me and my friends talk about it 2 or 3 times a day, right? We talk about whether or not we're going to be able to get jobs 2 or 3 times a day. Then the other part that was, I think, really more interesting politically, we were right across the street from fraternity and sorority row, right? So just imagine, like, Animal House, Revenge of the Nerds, like, it's just prototypical, right? And I asked one of the guys, I'm like, so I assume they're all Republicans. And he said, they're apolitical, but they're Trump supporters, right? So they don't really think about it in the context of politics. They think about it culturally.
Oh, fascinating.
Right?
Interesting.
So I think we underestimate. I remember it was, what's his name? Breitbart, who said, politics is downstream of culture. And I was watching it in real time. And so it was great. It was great to see David and spend a little time with him. And then that weekend, I actually went down to Fort Lauderdale and did an event with Rich Logis, who runs an organization called Leaving MAGA. And that was a good one too. We had some folks show up on a Sunday to watch some football and eat some wings. And, what he said was that he thinks that there are people peeling off of MAGA, but it's sort of like, remember that expression, quiet quitting, that came out a couple of years ago?
Yeah, of course.
And he sort of thinks it's that way, which is because, as we talked about just a second ago, MAGA is as much a cultural movement as it is a political movement, that even if you've decided you're over Trump, you're not likely to say it, right? You're not likely to make a big deal out of it. And I really thought that was an interesting perspective.
Well, I mean, if anything, the fallout from this Charlie Kirk murder has shown us is that it can have consequences, some very serious consequences. These efforts around the country to browbeat people, if they acknowledge some of the terrible things that Kirk said, saying that Black women don't have brains, not brains enough to have a white woman's job. That is a thing that he said. He said a lot of things. He also said we should have open debate. And if you acknowledge that, if you note that, if you don't fly your flags at half staff, I mean, it feels like cancel culture on steroids.
Well, yeah, look, I mean, it's always ironic. I feel like that the left always canceled far more of its own than it did of anybody else.
MSNBC sure did.
That's a whole other thing. But yeah, I mean, it's not surprising. What is surprising is how quickly people are falling in line, right? Just to get rid of folks. But I think you mentioned some of the things that Kirk says, and here's how I think about his rhetoric. I think, like Trump, he was a brilliant political actor. He knew exactly what to do to get the reaction he wanted from the crowd he was in front of. And he was very, very good at that. For me, what's worse, Tom, is I'm not sure how much of it he actually believed, and how much of it he actually just said because it owned the libs or it made people go crazy. And Trump's very good at that too, right? Say things that will make people nuts or enrage them, and it keeps you in the middle. I mean, you said when I got on a plane, if I saw a black pilot, like I hope we make it. Like, I don't like maybe he really believes that, but like, I don't think so. Like, Kirk was many things. Stupid wasn't one of them. Ignorant wasn't one of them.
Great point.
And so to me, I think that's the one thing that underlines so much of MAGA is the cynicism, right? Trump is what he is, so take him and put him aside. But Vance knows better. DeSantis, Cruz, Hawley, all of them know better. They do it because it's a means to an end. And unfortunately, I don't. Kirk built an empire on that, of willing believers who were looking for something. And I'll tell you this, Turning Point USA did 14 events a year, right? I'm not sure how many they're going to do now. I don't know what their future looks like.
Sure.
But like, he gave an outlet to people on college campuses, for better or worse. I could make an argument for worse, who didn't feel like they were being seen or heard, and they dumped a ton of money into it, right? And they were often outspending liberal and democratically aligned groups on campus. Right. And so, you can say all the things you want to say about what he said, how he acted, what he espoused. But the truth is that, like, he built an entity, they had a lot of money, and they put it to use. And, there's a lot to be learned from that, which is like, if you want to build these sorts of movements, it's not just enough to say, I want to build a movement, right? Anybody who says we're building a movement is usually not. Right? Like, it's not. They're not. Right. I have a rule, Tom. If you have to say it out loud, it's probably not true. Right.
Are you suggesting this has anything to do with Elon Musk, aforementioned third party?
Well, listen. I mean, I went out. My neighbor is a guy who actually worked for Elon, and I went down to his house and knocked on his door and asked, like, if you were going to help him start a third party. He did not appreciate that. I'm not kidding. I literally did that. So
where is it? I mean, all the money in the world.
I know. Well, this is the issue when you work for a guy like Elon. You're betwixt and between, which is like, you're still a Republican consultant. Right. So unless Elon deposits $100 million in your bank account, so you never have to work again, right? Like, it's very difficult to say, oh, by the way, this entire thing that I spent my life in, look, I did it, I'm fine. But a lot of people aren't going to do that.
It takes a lot of work. I should note, as noted at the top of the show here, I'm producing today as well. Ian Walters, our friend, is up in Baltimore giving a talk on jazz history, R&B history, and music history. For folks that don't know, if you're a regular watcher, listener, viewer, what have you, you probably already know that Ian is an incredible pianist. Plays all over the state of Maryland. I don't know if he ever gets down to Virginia. A lot of people don't cross the Potomac around here, especially us natives up here in Maryland. But he does some great stuff. So I'm producing today as well.
Well, I was sorry to hear that Ian wouldn't be joining, because little known fact, you might know this, Tom. Ian and I actually first met at the 1996 Republican convention in San Diego, California.
Wow. Deep cut.
deep cut. His dad, Ralph Hollow, and my dad, Rich Galen, had known each other in Washington politics for a million years. And yeah, so we ran around San Diego for the better part of the weekend. I'll tell you this. It was 1996. Bob Dole and Jack Kemp were on the Republican ticket. So it was one long party because nobody had no one believed 1 second that we were going to win in November. Right. So like, it was just like, let's just go have a good time.
Oh, that's incredible. And it was in San Diego?
Yeah, 1996.
Oh, that must have been a hell of a party.
It was great. The greatest political party I've ever been to, and this is almost 30 years on, was a party called the Melee for Haley Barbour, who was the chairman of the RNC.
Really?
And it was a great bash. Yeah.
Okay. How much can I ask about? Are we talking about like sex, drugs?
No.
Like
I mean,
rock and roll.
We were Republicans. Let's remember that.
Okay.
But can I just tell you one more story about that week? It was the first time I ever met Frank Luntz. So
really?
I'm doing man on the street interviews at the San Diego Zoo, talking to people who have no interest talking to me, and I frankly didn't have much interest talking to either. But this is my job. And we've been at it, me and the crew have been at it, and like I'm getting people to sign waivers and all this. And Frank Luntz, who I'd never met before, right, shows up out of nowhere and go, "You're out. We're in. We're in charge of this now." And I was like,
what?
I'm 20, right? I'm like, okay. Like this weird little man with bad hair shows up and starts yelling at me. I'm like, okay. So I go back and they're like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Some guy named Frank Luntz told me to come back here." And like, ah! So yes. And that pretty much explains the rest of my relationship with Frank up to this very moment.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
Oh yeah. A lot happened in that week. A lot happened in that week.
Oh my God. That's so good, dude. I'm attempting to type here, which is very hard to do. Have you figured out I need to get a new mic stand, or maybe I should just use these what have you, these
well, I have this thing when
I like microphone. That. I need to get another one. I got this crazy boom mic stand. Here, I'll hang tight 1 second. I'm going to do this. I need to read a message here from our sponsor for 24/7 News and Tom LoBianco Reports. Folks, we're going to take an ad break here. Our very first ad break on the show, episode 17. Very excited for this. Also happens to be a good friend. So let's do this. Here we go. Ticker. No, I did not want to do a ticker. Well, we'll do a ticker. Why not? Ian set this up. I have no idea what I'm doing on the board. This is why you need professionals. Okay.
You remind me a lot of if you've watched the movie Private Parts with Howard Stern, where when they fire his entire crew and he's trying to work the board and read the news by himself. It's giving me a lot of that kind of vibe.
You know, I'll tell you, there's a great story. I swear to God, Manoj, I actually am going to read this thing. I shit you not. Like, I actually will read this ad. But first, before we get to the people that are actually paying us to do this so that we can actually do journalism, I do have a completely useless bit of Mike Pence trivia. And what would it be if we didn't have some Mike Pence trivia? Pence
is any Mike Pence trivia useful?
Oh, wow.
Just saying. Just put it out there.
So trivial at best, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, no joke. Back in the 90s when Pence was on the radio, and a lot of people don't know this. I suspect Trump does know this. He often keeps this very private. Pence has quite the temper, actually. Now, it takes a lot to get there, but he does pop off from time to time. So way back in the 90s, and I reported this in the book, I'm trying to remember the name of his producer. It was his longtime producer when he was on the radio network out there. It was not the big station in Indianapolis. It was the statewide network. And it must have been like 1997 or 98. And he just had a monster blow up with his producer, and they were yelling at each other during one of these ad breaks. And, I think what was an ad break go? Like a minute and a half, 2 minutes or something. So, the clock's running down.
Yeah.
So his producer finally screams, "You run your own damn board," slams the door in his face, runs out of the building. And Pence is just left there like, oh, well, what do I do?
Right.
Like clock's ticking down.
I know.
Okay.
Listen,
with that,
some epic crash outs. There's also you know, I was a nerd, so I listened to Larry King Live when I was a kid on the radio in the middle of the
Nice.
night. Like all these people, like his producers hated him, so they recorded all this insane stuff that he did like off the air. So yeah,
Really?
but anyway, that's for Radio Files. I'm sorry, read
Oh,
your
that's
ad so that
incredible.
you can keep paying for this.
Now, let's hear. Okay, so my friend Manoj is the owner of a startup here called projectmanagemymove.com. Go head over to it. You can see it on the ticker there because I'm very good at the board. If you're selling a house and don't have the time or energy to deal with cleanouts, contractors, or staging, Manoj will take care of everything so you can avoid the stress and sell for top dollar. Go to projectmanagemymove.com and give them a call today. And I'll add a little bit of note here because I have been working with him on the language of this. For folks that don't know, and I did not know about this. There are these things called distress sales. So if unfortunately, if you have a death in the family or divorce or for whatever reason you need to sell your house very quickly, a lot of times people will just go ahead and put the house on the market. But there are things you can do to really improve the value of it, and potentially get tens of thousands, maybe upwards of $100,000 more in the sale price just with some very basic work. So what Manoj does is he actually will coordinate the contractors that do all this stuff to make sure that you really do get top dollar out of this. So do head on over to projectmanagemymove.com. And with that, we are back to the show, and I'm back to the board. Ticker off. Okay. So, and folks, no comments today. I apologize. I really do. I can't. So here's a little known fact about this world where everybody in America is camera ready. This is more energy intensive. As it turns out, my phone's about to die. So check that out. See, this is how energy intensive the whole thing is. It's actually more energy intensive than an AI farm sprouting up in the middle of your cornfield. Okay.
And requires more water.
It really, right? Dude, it really, no joke. I can't run with the amount of direct bandwidth I have on the internet here. I cannot run Substack streaming at the same time as StreamYard. Okay, which is what we're using for this. And big thanks to StreamYard. Great platform. Really enjoy it. So we'll not be doing live comments during today's show, but if you reply to the email 24 Site News, I'll see that. And if you drop in some comments over at Political Voices Network, where this is playing at 8 p.m. Eastern every day, I will see those as well. Yesterday I had a question. Am I related to Tony LoBianco? I should be. Turns out there's a lot of LoBiancos out there. So I'm not that I know of. But that is the question I get the most. Am I related to Tony LoBianco for a certain audience there? So I was reading this earlier today, and you try to think about like how do we approach this, right? And I think yesterday I had on Charlie Sykes, and I love Charlie. Charlie is so
wonderful guy, terrific,
just
brilliant.
I mean, a beacon of ethics and integrity, level-headedness, clarity, and his thing right now. What do we talk about? What do we do with this? If you're a fucking lunatic like Candace Owens and you're making money being a fucking lunatic, I don't mind cursing. You make up weird shit like, oh, Benjamin Netanyahu did this. Clearly, well, okay, clearly, I don't know. There's no evidence of that.
So she's after Netanyahu, the royal family, and everybody else she can find, right? So, French president. Sorry, the French.
That's
president.
Right. Yes, Brigitte Macron. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yes.
I have to plug my own computer in because I had my own power issues. Tom, so please continue.
They're ridiculous. It was bonkers. So, people make money off of this. And I really do think that we talked a little bit about this yesterday. I love that Spencer Cox coined this term. This might be the term of the year, outrage entrepreneurs. Because you make money off of just making shit up. Well, the Bulwark had a piece earlier today. A great piece, Jim Swift, Andrew Eggers, and Kathy Young, pointing out that you basically now, and I will know JoJo from Jerz is a friend, or I've had her on the show before, but she's been on the home front numerous times. But you actually now, in this moment, you actually have her And Steve Bannon saying the exact same thing. This is the horseshoe theory of insanity right now, saying the text messages are probably fake. The evidence submitted in court is a fake. And what the hell is going on here? Why do people do this? Right? Like, is there a bottom to this?
Well, may I interrupt? I mean, I'm at best a jailhouse lawyer.
Yeah.
You know, but it would seem to me, as a layman, that you would not want to introduce into your first court appearance for a cap. Oh, hello.
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, I disappeared off the screen. Oh, now you're gone. So I'm just going to keep talking. That your first appearance would not want to be introducing what you believe to be fraudulent information into an official court proceeding in a capital murder case. Just seems to me that that's not something prosecutors would do for any reason. Tom, are you there?
Yes.
Hello?
I just plugged in my cell phone so I don't die on air. All right. Yes.
So as I was saying, I don't know if you heard me. I don't get the sense that prosecutors would knowingly put something forth before the court that they thought was fraudulent. And so, I don't get it. Now I've seen some other things, not about whether or not the text messages were fake, Tom, but whether or not that hearing was an appropriate place for those prosecutors to introduce those things.
Interesting.
So that's a technical legal matter, but not a matter of whether or not they're legitimate or not.
Yeah.
And again, if they've got the kid's phone, if they've opened it, right, it looks like Ken Klippenstein has some Discord chats. I have a hard time believing Ken would have posted those if he thought they were fraudulent as well.
Yeah. Yes.
So to your point, I think it's these things happen, and what I don't quite understand is how we're still at this point, so many years into what Jeff Charlotte, brilliant author and professor up at Dartmouth, calls the Trumpocene era. Like, why people are still so ready to jump into the flames of insanity, as you said, right?
Yeah.
It's not necessary. The story is crazy enough as it is.
Right.
It's bananas and tragic and everything else. I mean, it's like you mentioned the Lincoln Project. People are like, well, how do you come up with this stuff? I'm like, we don't have to make it up. It's just sitting there waiting for you. You just make it. You just here's what's happening, right?
Yes.
You don't even really need to embellish.
It's I don't know if this is late stage influencer era that we're in. Everything is a late stage, what have you, which to me seems awfully naive and prospective in terms of maybe things will get better. Late stage never results in actual late stage, whatever the hell it is. But the need to get attention, right, to draw attention to yourself, whatever it is. I remember, I think it was last year when Virginia put in its porn law, anti-porn law, and I was flipping through Twitter, and here's an elderly black lady who's a lawmaker down in Virginia talking about needing to have access to her porn. And I figured for sure, well, this is, this surely is her account was hacked. All right. But, being the realm of necessary attention, I just had to go look it up. No, it was real. All right. And then, of course, this year we have, candidates, we've moved from candidates getting dumped because they had an OnlyFans account back in 2023 to candidates saying, oh, I'm a swinger. I'm totally a swinger. And I want everybody to know that before it gets out there. I'm like, where are we right now? There's no bottom to this, really. It's just insane.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Right?
Right.
Good advice from my dear departed father. Right? Holds up now as well as it did when I was 18. Right? If it's in your head, it doesn't need to come out of your mouth. It's perfectly okay to stay right up there in your cranium and never experience the light of day.
You know what? Life really does need a filter. Okay.
It does. I mean, people accuse me of being Larry David a lot, so maybe I'm the last person to discuss this. But yeah, I mean, if I'm filterless, I'm attempting to be entertaining, not rude or ugly, right? Again, I say attempting.
You know what this reminded me of, and I wrote this in the newsletter this morning. Is and I talked with a number of folks about this almost immediately after the Kirk shooting. How this would become another JFK thing, where you have just like endless conspiracy theories, and your reality, your investigations are never enough. And I'd actually forgotten. I mean, this is how terminally crazy the second Trump administration has been. That they released the files. They can't release the Epstein files, but they did release the JFK files, which, as I recall, I think the only thing it accomplished was outing some CIA operations. Is that correct?
I'm sure, but there's a brilliant presidential historian, Alexis Coe, who has a who has a Substack that you should follow as well. And she was actually asked to testify before an oversight committee hearing about the JFK files, and she said it was. She wrote a post about it, which is both entertaining, informative, and depressing in its own, each in its own right. Because she said the other people on the panel with her were like 90-year-old men who could barely speak, like they were in wheelchairs. And she's like, literally, there was nothing new. There was literally nothing new in this other than like, she's like, I thought it was bad, and then I actually went to Congress, and it was so much worse than I could imagine. So yes, it's but you say about what's interesting too, Tom, is you talk about the attention economy, which is you and I are hoping lots and lots and lots of people are watching this, right?
Yeah.
You and I have known each other for a long time. We're friends. We like to do this stuff. I think we have a good rapport. But think about the attention it takes to go through a horrifying video, frame by frame, for hours from different angles, right? To say, like, well, did you see that cop handed something to the security guard? What do you think it was? Must have been drugs. Like, I don't know what it was, and frankly, I don't care.
Yeah.
The other part is like the one thing I noted, in clearly, like Meta and all these other apps do not have good filters, because that the video got served to me, and I didn't even know what it was until I had already seen it.
Yeah.
Was also that when we hear about these shootings, they're really abstractions. This was the first one that I could remember in recent memory where the trauma was right there to be seen. The horrificness of the damage that is done in less than a second was there to be seen. And I think that has also, I think, shocked a lot of sensibilities, and certainly I know that people's kids were served it and everything else. And so, like, I know that Mark Zuckerberg and all those geniuses aren't going to do much, but it was horrifying to see. But it was also horrifying to know that those videos went out millions and millions and millions of times before anybody thought to pull them down. But again, then, like, what is it you're looking for? If you're gonna stare at that for hours, frame by frame, right? What is it that you're hoping to accomplish? It's not. I mean, the Zapruder film, right? Like, it just happened to be one guy standing there. It was grainy and everything else, but like, so was there somebody on the grassy knoll at the the Utah Valley University? Like, clearly not. But to your point, we're in the year 2025, the year of our Lord 2025, as you started at the top. And conspiracy theories are as alive and well now as they were when we didn't have every piece of human information ever created at our literal fingertips. And it just goes to show you that people will do a lot to make their lives more interesting.
Yeah. It's I'm glad you brought up the video itself, because I saw it, and in the moment it didn't feel real. And just thinking about it now, it is traumatizing. It is traumatizing to see somebody murdered in reality repeatedly. I mean, I think, what, it's I'm circle back here to all right, what is the depth of this, right? Grannies talking about their Pornhub accounts. All right. I think this is that is the bedrock depth of the poison of this, of the cancer of social media, is a literal murder of a fucking snuff film played on a loop endlessly, constantly.
Yeah, nobody needs to see that, right? It's
Yeah.
horrifying. It's nightmare inducing. Yeah. And, it just, and in it, I think it further desensitizes a population that's, there have been 9 school shootings this year that have resulted in a death or a major injury. It just is a point of personal privilege. Like, I don't see anybody like doing things at the Kennedy Center for those kids, right?
Yeah.
How about the kid up in Minnesota who literally like threw his body on top of one of his friends to save him and ended up in the hospital? I think the little boy is going to survive, and he might even already be out of the hospital. But how about like a day of recognition for him? How about a presidential medal of freedom for like an elementary school kid whose first thought was, "That's my buddy. I got to jump on top of him like he's in Iraq jumping on a grenade," right? And I think the other part too, you mentioned all this insanity that people put on social media is like, get your priorities in order.
Yeah.
Right. Like, get your act together. You're an elected official, right? Like, here's the thing. A lot of this stuff I don't care about, right? I don't think most other people do either. And
right.
like, I didn't need to know you were a swinger, and I didn't need to know that you're an old lady with a porn addiction. Like, I don't need to know those things, right? If we're already so far down on the institutional trust meter, like, do you think that helps? Or do you think it's like, I don't know what goes on in Richmond, but I don't want to know,
right? Seriously, it's terrible. This is insane. It's crazy, man. I don't know what the hell to do. Well, I do know what the hell to do. We do this. Okay. We keep soldiering on. Yeah, it is.
Listen, everybody's got a job to do. Ours happens to be pushing a rock up a hill while it's flaming and people throwing grenades at us. But other than that, it's great.
Everything's great. It's awesome.
Everything's. It's just like in Animal House, totally at the end of Animal House with Kevin Bacon going, "All is well. You're being called." Right.
Oh my God, incredible. So what's coming up this week on the home front?
So let's see. On Monday, I had Dan Barkoff. Yesterday, I don't even remember. I've got them all scheduled this week. So I've got a bunch of folks. It's going to be 11 a.m. Eastern every day this week, different guests,
nice.
And I'll put the stuff out. I wrote a piece today, actually, about Robert Redford and his passing. I live here in Utah, in Park City, where the Sundance Film Festival takes place. And the Sundance Resort that he founded, he built, was just down the road, about 45 minutes, an incredibly beautiful place. I actually watched All the President's Men a couple of weeks ago because I was listening to a book about Watergate by my good friend Garrett Graff, who's just a brilliant, historian. And I watched 3 Days of the Condor last night, which is not only one of my all-time favorite movies, but my favorite Redford movie.
Really?
And The Natural, Spy Game, Sneakers, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, like, you name it, right? Like, and then you just look and you're like, oh my God, he was in that, he directed that.
Wow.
A River Runs Through It, probably one of the most beautiful films, aside from a great movie. Probably one of the most beautiful films ever shot. If you're a fan of the West and you're a fan of places like Montana and fly fishing and all that. So, wrote about that today, and been writing about the politics of a government shutdown, Tom. And I put a piece in for submission for actually a real live publication, not just mine, about the idea that, like, let me ask you this. Here's a little quick trivia. When's the last time the United States Congress passed all 12 appropriations bills on time by the September 30th deadline? When's the last time?
2002.
1996.
Holy Jesus.
29 years and counting. Because it won't be this year. Wow. And so, but it speaks to, in my opinion, is that it speaks to a larger institutional rot, which is like they're unwilling or unable, I think both, to make decisions that need to be made to have any sort of regular order. I think that, you could make an argument that, with my dad worked for Newt Gingrich for many years, right? With Newt's sort of imperial speakership, right? The end of the regular order was headed out the window, and everything became dominated by leadership, and leadership was really dominated by those who could raise money, not those who served their time or were great legislators or knew their caucus or their conference. It diminished the power of committee chairs and appropriators.
Right.
And now here we are, the Republicans, they want something till November or December. Like, why? Democrats, said, nothing moves if we don't get the subsidies for the Obamacare back. And the first thing Mike Johnson said is, you're not getting them back. Well, what are you going to do now? Right. Yeah. So strategically, how about not make what you want like 2 steps ahead of where you already are? How about make it like 100 steps from where you are? And then if you need to give ground strategically, at least you can still come away with a win. But the question here, Tom, is that if like you believe the Trump administration and the Trump dominated Congress is a threat to the country, why do you have any compunction about shutting down a government they're in control of?
Great question.
And then also there's also the political aspect of it, which is I really believe that if Chuck Schumer capitulates again, that it will shatter even further an already broken Democratic coalition that I think will be very difficult to get back together before even next November's election. So those are the kinds of things I'm thinking about and working on.
Fascinating.
So take a look, go subscribe. Love to hear what y'all have to say. It's look, I love doing this stuff. I've been doing it a long time. Again, been in this fight a long time. I'm not sure what else I'm qualified to do. So there's also that. I'm literally not qualified to do anything else. I have no marketable skills. Not handy, right? Not an engineer. I'm bad at math. So this is where I ended up.
That's right. Equality pontification. Somewhere around here, I actually have a biography of Danny Rostenkowski. Speaking of the old era of dominant committee chairs. Okay. Well, guys, I'm gonna wrap us up here. And make sure to head on over to the home front on Substack. Find Reed's podcast. Reed, thanks for being here, man. Always enjoy having you on, man.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
Man. And I'm Tom LoBianco. This is episode 17. Tom LoBianco Reports. Ian will be back tomorrow. And join us tomorrow will be Aaron Turr from FIRE, the civil rights group, civil liberties group, free speech advocate. Looking forward to chatting with Aaron about their efforts to combat cancel culture across the political spectrum. A reminder, they really started from more a libertarian leaning on college campuses over the years and have been expanding their efforts. Really a seminal group here in the second Trump term. So join us tomorrow at noon when Aaron is on. Sign up at the Substack, 24site.news. Get the email in the morning. Catch us here every day live at noon on Substack. Again, on Political Voices Network at 8 p.m. on YouTube. And I'll see your comments over there. Thanks for being here, folks. Cheers.